So can everybody see that screen on your, can everybody see the drawing on the left-hand side?
Yes, thank you.
Excellent. Okay, thank you, Pam. Appreciate that. So what you see there is a red line going around a plot. That red line, actually, if you look at the bottom of your screen on the left-hand side, you'll see some trees and a pathway. So that was a bigger square, and this has been cut. So originally we got an option agreement on the whole land, which is an old bungalow, which was an orchard on the side. So we got planning. So we got an option agreement for 2 years, and it was during the COVID period. So it's just before COVID, and then COVID hit. We'd put an application in for 22 apartments, and the local residents, certainly the parish council, said, oh, they didn't want apartments because of the density or the amount of properties that would end up in this particular area. So what we've gone for is 10 luxury houses. So so the red line that you see there going all the way around, and Dan's cursor will just go around, and can you see that? Can you all see that on the picture on the left-hand side, the larger one? So that particular plot has now been sold, and we're just about to complete, but that has been sold with planning for 10 units. And so we did try and sell the whole plot together. So it's a bungalow, which is 450,000. And to the right-hand side of a bungalow, the next drawing will make more sense. There's a piece of land which we can get potentially planning for two more semi-detached, or sorry, detached houses. And so because we didn't get many offers on the whole plot, we split it. So a developer came along. We had a number of developers who came along, and they just wanted they just wanted the development. They didn't want the rest of it. It was very, very clever because they knew exactly what they wanted. And even though we tried to sell them another piece of land, the other piece of land didn't have planning, so they weren't interested. The bungalow was not in their range, so they weren't interested. So we split it. So the red line that you see here is the 10 houses. So you'll see from the bottom, from the middle of the, sorry, there's a drawing on the left-hand side, and on the corner it shows where the red line starts and the road starts. So the purple part is where the road will go around. You see where the cursor is going now? Yeah. So that is the road, which isn't there at the moment, but the developer is purchasing will need to put that road in, and the services. Then when one of the developers who came to look at the site, he realized that the level of the road on the main road, which is the A2, and the site, there's such a fall that they'd have to make that road up. And that takes some engineering in terms of lifting up the road. And I think I saw Della just join us a few minutes ago, and we've been to this site on our discovery day, and we were just stood on this field. So at the moment it's just a field. So we split that into one part, which we've, as I say, we sold. And then if we go to the next screen, you'll see that there's this like a bottle with a bottleneck at the top. Now that has not got any planning, but we are trying to sell that plot of land for 2 detached properties so that somebody can take that piece of land and make an application for 2 detached properties. So we will sell the development of 10 as one plot, and then the plot of land next to it as something else. And then onto the left-hand side, there's a bungalow and some land which will be sold separately as well. Now, somebody could buy the bungalow, which is, if you see in the middle of the screen, it says 111 in the property. And there's a pathway from the main road coming down, or a driveway, and that is the property there. So they could redevelop the property, they could knock the property down, subject to planning, they could extend the property, etc. So they could use the property as well as purchase the land to the right-hand side. If a developer comes along and they say, oh, we just want to purchase the land because it's within our price range, it's £100,000, then they can go and get planning. Now, the access to the two new plots in that red box at the moment would be via the new road coming in. So the developer would have a right of access, and both developers would work together in order to provide access for that. So what that means is that the developer who's the bigger developer with the trend plots would have the overall rights, but then he would give them rights to the land on the left-hand side. What that allows them to do is provide services, gas, water, electric, and be able to get onto the site, onto their plot. Is there any questions so far? Please feel free to raise your hands if there is. I'll just double check if there's anybody got any questions.
Just a very quick question.
Sorry, is that Daniel? Tyler?
It's Cash here, Sunil.
Oh, hi.
Hi. Just a very quick question. You said you took this on an option agreement, right?
Yes.
And then you applied for planning for 10 houses.
Yeah. Initially 22.
Yeah.
But yes.
Then how was the planning process? Did it take long, and do you have to do a lot of things to justify development in that area?
Yeah, fantastic question. So we've made a planning application for, as I say, the 22 during COVID. So the communication with the council was fairly limited because the people were working from home, and our planner, I think, well, he was working from home as well, but my business partner and I were meeting on a weekly basis, and then we were following it through. But the parish council are very, very strong in that area, which is in Newington, and they're very strong as a community, and they didn't want any developments in that area, although a number of developments have been approved and been undertaken, etc. But it's all to do with the air pollution and the mitigation of air pollution. And I know you live in London, Cash, so you'd probably be more aware of that. But in this particular area, as I say, the parish council are very much against it. So we had to drop the scheme, but the council are very good to us because they allowed us to put in a new scheme, but didn't charge us an additional fee, because they would have been within their rights to do that, to say, oh, this is a totally different scheme from what you originally put in, so you have to pay again. But they did allow us to continue by putting an amended scheme in. So that was very useful. But we had to update all the reports. So the flood risk assessment, the air pollution reports, transport report, because of course the road layout changed, everything changed. And then the parish council, because they pushed so hard, it went to committee. And on the air pollution report, as a developer, we had to pay $4,500 to mitigate against air pollution. So we said, yes, we'll supply electric bikes, and we'll make a contribution to East House of £500, which was already £5,000. We would do other things that would help to mitigate against air pollution. So when we went to committee, the parish council pushed, and one of the members, who are the councillors, and he wasn't even in this area, said, I don't believe that is enough money, £500 per property, and I want more. So because he brought his electric bike at £2,000, and he thought that £1,000 per property was more adapt. We'd already covered the legal requirement. We'd already met the legal requirement plus more, but he wanted even more. And there's a legal lady or a gentleman who normally sits at the planning committee, who, although are not voting, they are there as guidance to make sure that everything is done according to the planning law. And she actually advised the members, the council members who are voted in, Conservatives, Labour, etc., that the developer had met all the obligations under planning law, and that the committee was wrong in asking for more. But after a bit of a discussion, it got adjourned, and we had to agree that we had to put the application back into another committee. In another 2 months, we lost another 2 months, and at that stage they did approve it, but we had to basically agree to give more money to mitigate. So yes, it's very frustrating that if you meet the requirement of the law, which is in planning law, but then somebody else can turn around and say, yes, but we want more as a local councillor, then we had to give more because we had no option. Considering that the site that we brought for, we'd run out of our option agreement, and we had to purchase the site because we would have lost all our investment in the planning part. So we had to purchase a site for over £1.2 million. So we had to find that money, and all the money that we'd originally invested, about 100 grand in the planning application process and the consultants and everything else. So long answer to your question, but I hope it gives enough details that yes, it just took time. It could have been a lot easier. One of the other things that happened at the committee meeting was that the same councillor said, oh, you've got parking for 3 visitor vehicles. Now, the Kent County Council, which covers the whole of Kent, says that we must have 1 visitor parking space for every 10 houses. The local council, the Swale Council, said we must have 2 parking spaces, and our planner had put in 3 spaces. So would you agree that giving more by 1 more parking space would be sufficient? Yeah. The person at the planning committee said, I think there are more Amazon vehicles on the road, and there are more, so we would like 6 parking spaces. So double what we'd put in, 6 times what KCC is, and 3 times more than the local requirement. So we went back, we'd done it because we knew we had no choice to do it. So we got our architects. You have to pay the architect's fee, another £1,500 to change the diagrams and put them back in again. Then when you get to planning committee, somebody stands up and says, oh, that's very nice, but now you've taken away the green space. Yeah, but we only have options, don't we? Only have a certain amount of land. So do you want the parking spaces, or, but you can't say that. You just have 3 minutes to present your case in front of them. And we said, we've done everything possible, and it was approved. And then we were able to, we had about 5-6 viewings. We were able to sell it fairly quickly. But we did try and sell the whole lot. And because we weren't able to, we've then split it into 3. Sorry, that's a long answer to your question, but I hope it answers it.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you, Sunil. It just goes to show that when we have an option agreement on a piece of land, right, and if it has to go through planning, all developers, we have to go for as longer as possible term on the option agreement to go through all these issues and negotiation with the council. Yes.
And the thing is that we had a 2-year agreement, but because of the slowness, the council, COVID, various things, the person on the other side didn't allow us to renew the option agreement. And we were 18 months in, and there was a clause in the contract that 18 months we would automatically have exchanged. So we were tied in, and then it was another 6 months before completion. So we did have time, but so in order to get the finance, yeah, we've had to put up additional security is a private lender that we've had to put up security for. So, but the person purchasing only wants to purchase the development of 10, because that's the business they're in, but also it's easier for finance. That they're not holding a plot of land that they don't know what's going to happen in the future. They don't want to, do up a bungalow, etc. So yeah, thank you, Kash, for your question. Really, really great. I'll come back as well. Right, is it okay? We'll go to Della first, ladies first, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good evening, Della. You okay?
Hi, Sunil. I'm good, thank you. I think you've probably just answered my question, because I was going to ask why you weren't going for planning on this extra piece of land first, but I think listening to the pain that you've just been through, I can understand why.
Yeah, so there was a conversation as well, is that if we went for 10 units, I mean, in this area, we've had to pay Section 106, which is, as you know, the contribution to the council for everybody seemed to put in a request. So we had Kent County Council saying, could you give us money for schools? We had transport people wanting money. We had the local surgeries wanting money, local primary schools, and there's a whole list, and it added up to £180,000 on this particular project, which if we were going to build this out, and if that was the case, we would have had to pay that plus more. But the developer has already taken that into his consideration. So once you get the planning, or once they've agreed the planning, then the legal process starts in terms of agreeing the Section 106. Now, planning was agreed at committee 4 months ago, but it's taken 4 months to get to the 106. But yeah, so that's why we didn't go for the 2 additional, because it would have meant more initially, more complications.
So you didn't want to do it separately either, as a separate application?
It is an option, and we've already got a sketch drawn out from our architect. So once we didn't want to interfere with the bigger plot. So once that goes through, maybe by the end of the month, a couple of weeks' time, then we're ready to put the application in for the 2 bungalow, for the 2, if we don't sell it. So we will, we can always keep it in the background. Secondary.
Okay, thank you.
No, brilliant. And I think you were great, because you came down to the site where you saw the field.
And
it's quite, but we didn't take you around the back, because it was quite, around the back is really nice, because there is a major field and a playing ground, etc.
Wow.
So yeah, it's
it's a huge site.
And we are talking to the purchaser, giving them information, helping them with anything they need, and we're looking to then hopefully help them, and then when they build it out, we're hoping to sell them as well. So we're getting a relationship, and he did come back yesterday and said they're looking to work with us longer term. So again, that's really good. We're just keeping our fingers crossed, because at the moment we're paying on a monthly basis for the finance we've borrowed. We were hoping to do it all in the option agreement time, get the planning, sell it, because our investment there would have been just the investment, not the finance to hold it. So yeah, brilliant question. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Ravi, you okay?
Yeah, mine was just very simple and very quick. I mean, obviously this site that you've got there, can I assume that you're going to have 2 access routes, one where the bottleneck is and one where the other bit is?
Yeah, so on that,
would they be like the driveways? Yeah, there, and then the bottle at the top.
Yes. Yeah, so there's a bottleneck at the top, and but on the right hand side of that, if you see the size of size of houses that they put on the right hand side of the red line, you could probably duplicate that into the square. So the one at the bottom, as you quite rightly said, will have its own access, and then there'll be probably a fence in the middle as a garden. So the person at the top where the tree, can you see the tree in the red box? Yeah, so that would be where they would have their driveway coming from the top. Now, there is an agreement being set up as we speak regarding the developer who's purchasing the bigger plot, that he will allow access to that, because even if we keep it and we do something, we need the access, and if we sell it, then of course they need the access. So
okay. Are there any TPOs on the site? Because you said it was an old orchard.
It was an orchard, but no, there isn't. So they can. We were very lucky that they can actually take everything down, and that I did offer the current the purchaser and said, "Oh, would you like us to cut anything down because it's overgrown when your valuer comes?" And they said no, they'll just do it from maps and from desktop. They may visit the land, but they're just going to get diggers in and dig the whole site out. So we did offer to do that, but they've decided not to do that. Is there one more there, Dan? Is there one more slide? Yeah, so this is the
okay.
Sorry, and this is the 3rd plot, which is the bungalow. so you've actually got three parts to this. There was a whole, it started as a whole, and now it's the development, which is 10, the potential to get planning for 2 more, and a development. And this is where it says T18 and it gives you the red box. That is what's there. That is part of the plot as well. So by doing that, we're appealing to different markets, but we're also able to make more money on there. So once we sell the plot out of 10, we'll get some of our money back, and then our profit will be in selling the bungalow, which you can see on there. It says existing bungalow, retained, and the address is 111 Newington High Street. Yeah. So yeah, so does that answer the question, Ravi? Is that yes? Well, you're right that the top and the bottom are access roads, and then the access road to the existing one at the moment is there is a driveway there which Dylan and I and other people walked down on the day that it was all raining, etc. So so yeah, this particular square that you see here has its own driveway and own access from the A2 on the left hand side, and the other side will be there as well. So thank you, Ravi, for your question. I think there was Shanaina. Good evening.
Hi, Sunil. Hi, good evening. Yeah, very well. How are you?
Excellent, thank you. Thanks for joining us.
Oh no, it's no, thank you for giving up your time and a really great presentation. I've just got a very basic question. How did you find this wonderful site?
Oh, so I work with I met a business partner in 2019, and he's been doing land developments for many years, 30 years. And this one actually came through an architect that we then employed the architect to do all the drawings and put the application in. No, it was the planner, not the architect, sorry, the planner. And the planner have a land department and a land sourcer, and he brought the site to us. And then we've worked with him, and we've gone back to them and given them the business to do all the planning and obtain the planning. And we're working with them on other sites that they brought as well. So yeah, it was through the planning a planner, but they also have a land agent in there as well. So
that's
yeah,
fantastic. Thank you.
No problem at all. So yeah, there is, as I said, we did try and sell it as one plot, but then when we couldn't, and you've probably done many title splits, then we've now decided to do title splits here. So what's happening at the moment through our solicitor is that the plot on the right hand side, which is the plot of 10, which is being sold, what's remaining has to be transferred to a separate company. So we are in a group structure, so we do save the stamp duty and capital and everything else. So we are moving what we own or what's remaining out somewhere to another company so that we can sell it at a later stage. Did that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Stamp duty group relief. Yes.
Yeah,
that makes sense. It's brilliant.
Yeah. So, but I think, I mean, you're an accountant, so you would know that, but I'm just making sure that I explain that correctly. That if you've got, I suppose the way to explain it is if you've got an apple and you cut it into 2, and you give one apple to just half the apple to somebody, you've still got half an apple left, but in a company sense, that has to be put somewhere. So in this situation, it's going to a company that we've recently created. Now we are selling the plot of 10 that we're selling in a company wrapper, so that the person buying is only buying 100 shares from us for £100, but then there's a major payment for the debt in the company, so they pay that in, but they're technically only buying 100 shares because the company holds the property.
Yeah.
And we had to get a separate solicitor for that, because we went to our land solicitor conveyancer, and she said, no, you need somebody else because you're selling a company, not and then we did a share on the stamp duty saving. So we managed to get our price up. We agreed a price, and then we said to the developer who came along, oh, you're buying the company, could we go 50-50 on the stamp duty? In fact, we ended up with 80% of the stamp duty saving.
Yeah, and this is where when you've got somebody that understands tax isn't just about company taxes and personal taxes, it's all the property taxes. You can often use those to sweeten a deal or to get more money out of a deal. And sometimes a no deal makes a deal because of the tax saving. That's fantastic. Well done, you. That's brilliant.
Yeah, no, it's well, we're not there yet. If you could keep all your fingers, keep your fingers
there, the universe. Tell the universe, come on, you are there.
No, that's absolutely right. And you know, I was going to say Delic, she's right in front of me, but Sinead, the thing is that there's a thing on YouTube, and it says, you know, everything is working out for me. Everything is working out, and I do say that to myself regularly because, you know, in this situation, there's a lot of money at stake because yes, we've got somebody that they could pull out, so we've got a lender, and it's private lending, and you know what, private lenders, it's because it was quick, easy, etc. And although there won't be any problems, but still there is an interest charge on a daily basis and things like that. So the clock is ticking, and so are the finances. So our profit margin can be eradicated after all this work because if we don't get it through quick enough, and on the same token, if we are pushy, we look desperate, and they could come back and negotiate the price, or they could go, "Oh, we're not interested." So it is a fine balance.
Mm.
But
it's lovely. Yeah. It's a great way you've divided it up, and it's a great way that you've used the stamp duty group relief. Otherwise, the company obtaining the dog leg bit there, the bit with the bungalow, and it would have to pay stamp duty on that part of the transaction, which is just ridiculous when it's all within, you think it's mine, I don't have to pay it. And people don't realise this, that companies are like human beings, and from one company to another, unless they're connected, there can be quite big fees. But no, that's fantastic and really enjoyable presentation. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, good. Well, it's just saying what we've done rather than it's not a presentation, but the stamp duty, I mean, on the saving on the bungalow and the land, I mean, you're looking at 20-odd thousand, and the stamp duty on the development was 62,000. So, you know, there's a lot of stamp duty payment, and you don't get that back, of course. So that is about knowing that bit. Dan, do we have one more on this one? 109. So this one here that you can see is 111, and then next door you can see just on the screen there 109. So there's a bungalow there at the moment as well, and there's land at the back. So we've been speaking to that particular owner, and they've now sadly passed away. But so this is at the back of 109. The pictures should be the other way around, as in. So the house will be on the side, but yeah. So if you on the left hand side, you can see a house that's been drawn as an outline. That is the existing, and then behind it you've got two properties which can be. That's it. Where Dan is pointing now, that can be, again, there's not planning, but there can be planning, and they will look like the image at the top. So if we just go back one slide, please, thank you. So on here, the access to that what I've shown you, which is behind 119, which is if you look at the top, that's it. Yeah. So you can see there's 111 and then in the red box, and then 109. So they've got their own driveway, and then behind it is there is another plot of land. So in order to access that, you can come down the new road where the developer will build, and then you see at the top, that's it, there's a brown box. Yeah. Can you see the brown box there where Dan is pointing? Give me a thumbs up if you can see that. Brilliant. Anybody know what that brown box is? No? So we're retaining that little brown box because it's a ransom strip. So that little box, so somebody will drive down the developer's new road, and in order to get to the plot of 2, which is on the neighbour's house, they would need to go across that piece of land. Now that piece of land is 30 centimetres, the size of a ruler in width. So you're not looking at masses, but legally they can't cross that. And the developer of the 10 properties would give them right of access because it's their road in order to do that. So it is a bit of a jigsaw at the moment because, again, sadly, the owners of 109 passed away. So we're now dealing with their next of kin, etc. But again, somebody could purchase that plot of land behind 109 and develop it and develop the 2. And Dan showed you on the other picture the image that could be created. So I think Cash, you came to this site as well, didn't you? Because you drove, is that right?
No, I think the first event you did, Sunil,
Yeah.
we went to a lot of other sites. I can't remember this one.
This was the first one, although it didn't look like this. It was a derelict house which is boarded up.
Yes. It was. I think it was raining, and the first site.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So lots of great learnings for me here in terms of the planning process, dealing with the parish council. Then we've got, the title splits. We've got the company structure. We've got different solicitors. Then we've looked at the opportunity next door at 109, putting a ransom strip in, and negotiating and making sure the 106 gets done. And all of those bits, if they fall into place, then we get paid. So, but Cash and Amit will tell you that the developer wanted the development and not the other bits because it was easier to get finance, and that's what they said to us. Although we've said to them, if you want to take the rest, they may come back and say, yeah, we are interested, but they just purely have development finance, and they said it would be easier to do that. There's flood risk assessment reports, archaeology. So there's an archaeology because there was a site at the back and they found remains, and again there'll be a monitoring. So they would be monitoring the site to see if they find anything during the period of the development. So any questions on that one before we move to another one that we have? So can you just give me an indication? Did it make sense? Yes, no? Okay. If you could give me a 1 in the chat box if it made sense, or if there's any information that you want. Great, thank you.
A quick question. How did you find this plot? How did you source it? How did you come across it?
So the site was brought to us by a land agent, but he's a director of the planning group that we use. So DHA are a planning consultant in Maidstone. They would be approached by somebody to say, we've got this property, and this was actually what happened. The owner of this property approached the land agent and said, we've got this property, do you know any developers who would be interested in doing this? And then we negotiated an option agreement, and that gave us the rights over the land, and it gave us the opportunity to then put in planning, and they couldn't sell it until we were like happy. We didn't have planning on the day we purchased, which was January this year. So we wanted to protect our investment because we knew that it had already been agreed and that we were so close that we did purchase. ideally, it would have been better if we hadn't purchased, because of course the finance costs, and we were able to do it all within the window of the option agreement. But yeah, the property was brought to us by a land agent, and that's because, as I said, my business partner David, he's been in developments for a very long time, so that was his connection. And the property's been, the land has been sold by another agent who just does land deals. So he's a single man operation, and all he does is sell land on LinkedIn and various other sites like that. But they've got a big database. And fascinating man, because he says, he'll tell you that, you know, he put this site on a Friday afternoon at 2 o'clock, and they had 7,000 views. If he'd put it on a Tuesday morning, they wouldn't have got so much views. And that was amazing again as a learning, because we're seeing how the industry of even selling a plot, £1.2 million, how it's done on LinkedIn rather than Rightmove super prime location, because this guy has about 70, 80 sites at any one time, and they don't use any of the portal because technically they're off market, and that's how he's promoting it, that they're off market. So yeah, very fantastic question. Thank you for that. We'll show, I can do another one very quickly, which is a smaller one, but they are all the same principle. So we'll do that in a minute then. So what this one is, we brought a pub in 2013-14, and the pub itself, can you move on to one of the other ones, Dan? And I'll just stop. Right, so this is the actual red line of what we brought. If you could just expand that out for me, that'd be great. So in the middle where it says 68, that there was the original pub. So there was a pub, and then we've converted the pub into 3 apartments. There was already an apartment upstairs, so we didn't need to get planning for that. But the downstairs, which was the original pub, we'd got a lounge and etc., we split it into 2 and made 2 flats. Can you hear me okay, Dan?
Yep, you were cutting out a little bit, but you seem to be okay now.
Okay, so the upstairs is a 3-bedroom flat, which the old landlord would have had his residence, and they had a pub downstairs, and we were able to convert that into 2. Once that was done, there was a beer garden at the back, and you can see there's a road there called the Fairview Road. So you can come down Fairview, and we were able to access the property from the rear. So, but the beer garden was at a higher level than the road, so we took it right down to the road level, and then we built a 1-bedroom flat and a 2-bedroom flat with under building parking. So the 1-bedroom is fairly small and the 2-bedroom is fairly large. It's just the way it worked out. So on that one piece of land, which was in auction and it didn't sell it on the auction day, and going back to 2013, I paid 113,000 plus stamp duty, 135 in total. With all my costs, it would have been 140,000, and we now have 5 units there, producing around £4,800 rental. So Dan will show you. So that was okay because we've 5 units on a single title. So we went to Barclays Bank, who I bank with now, and they have a charge over the whole land, over all the 5 properties. So we have 5 properties on a single title, as it's known. But at the moment, we're working in the background to split it into 5 separate titles, which gives us more value. Also, it gives us more options. So I could go to Cash or Remit and say, I've got 5 here. Can you find me a lender? They'll go, well, you may not get a lender in because of density all in one area, but you know, one will take 2 and the other one will take 3. So you get separate lenders. So if we move on to the other one, so please, anyone will do, doesn't matter. So this one here, it shows the parking, which is 1 and 2, and then it shows downstairs there's a lounge, a small kitchen, and a downstairs toilet. Now, although we had to put the downstairs toilet in, although it's a one bedroom, and I think, you know, there's only 12 steps to the upstairs, it was still classed for a disability access, that somebody could come in as a visitor and use the downstairs toilet. And upstairs, there's a bathroom and 1 bedroom, fairly small. But you can see what the architect has now done. So he's taken the plans and he's drawn a red line. So those 2 red lines put together form 1 apartment. So that will have its own title. And now in this particular location, we have 5 leases that we're also creating. So first of all, the drawings get done. They get sent to the solicitor. The solicitor's in the meantime creating 5 leases, which are exactly the same, and each one has its own plan and everything else. And we've kept the garages on the freehold, so we've kept the garages not in part of the leases. So now we'll be able to go and maybe remortgage three apartments and pay off our lender at Barclays, who've been very good to us, pay them off, but we would have 2 that are not covered. And again, we may go to 2 lenders because it gives us more flexibility. If you flick onto another one down, it just shows you that it's, so this particular one is at the top of the screen. You'll see that there's a block, and this was the original. So there's 3 apartments at the top and then 2 apartments at the bottom. They're on top of each other, so they're not a good drawing to see. Any questions on that?
Yeah, just one question, Sunil.
Yeah.
I guess when you saw this site, you must have seen that. You must have seen the potential from day one with access at the front and back.
No, I'd like to say, Amit, that I did. And honestly, we were talking the other day on Clubhouse about seeing opportunities. I didn't see the opportunity because the reason this was great is because this is just 10 minutes walk from our office, and it was a big building, and we were originally gonna, at the time, it was gonna be a special needs school because there was a need for that. But we thought, yeah, 135,000, we could convert it into 3 flats, which was the original. So the bit at the back was a bonus because that was land that we managed to purchase as part of this. So no, I didn't see it. And it was the lady from the Homes Under the Hammer who came, and she pointed out potentially the beer garden and how we could access the back and everything else. So I think the point I'm trying to make is that we don't have to have all of the answers, because there's great people like yourself, I mean, and a lot of other people around us that will give us the ideas because they'll see it from their point of view. So yeah, no, I didn't, on day one, I didn't think, right, this is going to be 5 and I can work out all the figures. All I knew that 135 grand in this area for that building was pretty good. And since then, I brought other pubs. I brought, like there's one just across the road from the office here, and we've done something slightly different with that one. The downstairs has remained a bar. There's 2 parts to it, the front bar and there's a back hall where they do events. And the upstairs we've converted into 4 HMO rooms. We did have 5, but we then had to take the other one for a communal area. So we have 4. So we have an income from upstairs and an income from downstairs. But yeah, not always do we have the answer at the beginning. Sorry, but great question.
Sunil,
Yeah.
How big are the units, each individual units in square meters? Do you know?
Yeah, the one bedroom is only like 55, which is the minimum requirement, and the 2 bedrooms again, they are 3 of them are 70s, so again just over the minimum. But there is a bigger flat which is like 90, so 90 square meters. So we're not looking at they're not massive, but the rents are fairly good in this area. It's within walking distance of the town and the station and things like that. But the small one is very small. You're just about to get a double bed in there and a wardrobe in the bedroom. And a young guy's been in there for 3 years. He left home and it's been great for him. But they're not you know, they were done with the minimum size to get them in. So yeah, great question.
Yeah, it's just I asked because when you actually go for lending individual units, if it's about 30 square meters, then you'll have more options with lenders. Anything below 30 square meters, then there are lenders, couple of lenders who lend below 30 square meters, but the rates will be higher. So just bear that in mind.
No, I think that's it. That is a really good point, because we have another block which was an office which we converted just here by the station, and we converted it into 6 apartments, and they are just, I think it's 30 or 32 square meters, so they are borderline. But on these ones we were good, because they had to reach, because we were going for planning, they had to reach the minimum requirement at the time for our council, which was 55. So yeah, no, it's a very good point. And if anybody's looking at doing that, yes, you can squeeze more in, but then you've got to look at, if you can't exit, because what Cash has just said, that you can't exit because the size is not right, then there is an issue. I was offered some flats in Sheerness, which is 9 miles from here, and they were 24 square meters, and I thought, well, yeah, I could purchase it and leave them on the freehold, but longer term they are going to cause problems. So I just decided not to do that. But this exercise of where I've got properties on single titles and splitting them now, we've been doing this for the last 9 months, where we've identified properties and we are doing title splits to create, I think in total about 30 leases, which will add value to the overall portfolio. So where we talk about adding value to the portfolio, it's been a good time to be able to do that. And it's all a paperwork exercise. So the solicitors do the leases, and there's 30 leases all the same. The architect does the drawings, and that all gets sent to the land registry, gets approved, and then you get your leases. And I can leave the leases there if need be, and then just activate them when I'm out of fixed term with the finance with the other property. So yeah, if I'm in fixed term, I'll just wait and leave it in the background. Just
a couple of other things, just for information and everyone on the call, because I'm just going through 8 units in the block for my client, and a couple of other things lender will look for is the leases are created in a different entity, a limited company. Away from the freehold. So if you own the freehold in personal name or limited company, they want the leases in separate entities. And there has to be some loan agreements between the freehold and the leasehold. And some lenders are picky on what goes into that loan agreement. And as long as they're set up correctly, then you're okay. If not, then few lenders will pick few things and it just delays the completion.
Yeah, no, definitely, and I'm glad you made that point, because our solicitor said, yeah, I've prepared the leases, but I'm gonna send them to the lender. So you think, well, why? Because if the lease is there, the lease is there, and if they're legal, they're legal. But she was very switched on, and she's saying that the reason is because if the lender wants something specific, we can add it in. And I said, well, what if the lender changes? She said, well, if one lender accepts it, then other lender would likely to accept it as well. So whilst you're creating them, you might as well, do that. So yeah, it's a really great point, Cash, that it makes the whole process easier. But I think part of it is looking at your portfolio and seeing where can you do title splits, because they are a paperwork exercise, which are easier. But as Cash has said, don't go too small, because then you'd have problems in financing. Any questions on this particular one, or any on title splits in general? So the other point that Cash made is that yes, we have, as I say, we have a group structure, and the freehold will remain in one company. So we have a company that will hold the freeholds, and the properties or the leases will go to another company. Sometimes it's easier to move the freehold and leave the the lease is there because it's one smaller transaction, and then again, you're not paying any stamp duty because the freehold may be worth less than 40,000. But if it's in a group, again, it really, really does help with stamp duty, because you can end up paying a lot of stamp duty on these transfers, although you're gaining on one, but it's how it's set up is absolutely critical.
Sonia, if you move these, and if you create the leases on moving, and the flats, so the leasehold flats stay in the subsidiary for 2 years, then you don't have to pay any stamp duty. Did your solicitor tell you that?
He didn't tell me the 2-year period, no, but it's, I mean, he doesn't, I mean, he probably didn't tell me because he realizes that I'm never going to sell these.
Okay.
Because that's, yeah, so he probably sort of took it that, well, the conversation that, yeah, you're not going to sell them. It did get on one of them is become, to me, it's complicated because to you, as an account, I'm sure it won't be, because they're talking about, I had to activate a sale in order to make sure the VAT was crystallized and etc. So we had to either sell the freehold to another company, or to sell at least one of the flats out of the company that's in order to crystallize a sale. But all 9 in another company are moving. So yeah, as I say, I've really enjoyed doing this, because it's somebody else doing it. The architect's doing their bit, and we're checking that what the architect found on one of them is that we'd moved 2 of the doors, which on the planning portal, and then when you actually get to site, what we've got planning for, we'd move 2 doors to make it easier as access, and he picked that up. But the drawings, the architect does, the leases, the solicitor does, so it's just a coordination job. And the accountant does the accounting bit, and we've got to pay everyone, yes, but then it creates so much more value. Sinead, I know you do a lot of lease splitting and things like that. Do you want to give us an overview of what that is?
Well, I don't do anything as sophisticated as this. It's just for me, it was a way of being able to, what I call, to get a free property. So yeah. I was looking, so I had a very strict criteria. So my filters, how I've been able to do it is I've just looked for 1-bedroom flats that are larger than 50 square meters, and they've needed to have a short lease or a low lease. So basically a lease of under 80 years. And they needed to have a refurb. Now, I was fortunate enough that we were able to, we had the short lease register from the land registry. So I did a lot of direct, I do most of my stuff direct to vendor. And this was in a time, don't forget, times have changed now, haven't they? Where with our creative ways, we can go to agents now and we can do deals, and we can afford to pay their fees and still make the deal stack. Whereas in those days, deals were really expensive and really hard to stack. So I basically would find a low lease flat. I would have to have a freeholder who, I didn't basically want an institutional freeholder or a corporate freeholder. So I didn't want a professional freeholder, because they were the ones who basically when you negotiate the lease extension fee, their figures were just laughable. In some cases, so I've got a lot of flats in like in East London. So normally they're the 3-story houses, the big 3-story houses that the bottom floor is half buried and half up, like the back. So you've got the basement flat, and then you've got 2 flats above. Well, the houses got converted. Now, if I found a low lease or short lease, that isn't a legal term. People think it is, but it's just a term that we affectionately call leases that are outside of marriage value. So if I found a short lease flat that needed a refurb and was big enough and had a decent freeholder, I'd then go to everybody in the flats and say, look, instead of me, because the cost of, there's a way that you can enfranchise the lease and you can actually acquire the freehold, and there's certain rules that you can go through where you can force the freeholder to sell you the freehold. So, and it's all about qualifying flats. I mean, we could do a room on it one day if you wanted, or an evening thing if you wanted to. But instead of me, so a great thing to do would actually be was to see if you can enfranchise the freehold. And what that means is, instead of you paying a lease extension to the freeholder, you'd actually be buying the freehold off of it, and then you would own the freehold to your flat, and then you can extend your lease for free. So it often doesn't cost much more money to enfranchise the freehold than it does to extend the lease.
Yes.
That doesn't normally work on institutional freeholders. It's normally Brenda and Tony that either bought their flat. So I invest quite a lot in Southend, you probably know, and in Southend in the 80s there was this massive builders boom where they converted all the Victorian houses, and what they did was they didn't really understand the value of the freehold, and a lot of the flats in Southend, you'll find that either the top or the bottom flat, there aren't many 3-storey flats in Southend. Some have deeper properties, so they've got some around the back, but there aren't many 3 stories. But you'll often find one of the flats has got the freehold.
Yes.
You know, Jim lived there when he was single, when he lived on the seafront down in Southend. He then got married, he rented it out. Jim's still got the freehold. It's a real pain in the neck to him. And they're the ones that are really, really good to buy. So So basically, by adding value, by extending the lease or getting the freehold, one or the other, but you're making the property mortgageable by extending the lease. Providing you've got freeholder consent, I would only do it if I could make it into a 2-bed. So I'd be reconfiguring, I'd be refurbishing, and then I'd be extending. And by doing those 3 things, I could generally pull all my money out or get 5, 10, 15 grand back. So that's all I do. It's nothing.
No, that's great though. It's really, I mean, 10, 15 grand a time, do that 4 times a month. That's fantastic. So
yeah, it is good. It is good, but it's very the problem is with flats, it's all the party wall agreements.
Yes.
And for me, I've bought a lot of flats where they're not. I don't like flats in blocks because generally the block service charges are too expensive. So they don't normally work from a cash flow perspective. So most of my flats are like in converted houses, which is great. But for me, I've done it where it's been owner occupiers, and they really don't like developers. Even though I go, they're like a little girl and I'm a little Shania and I'm just doing this, and and I play it down. They still, it's really emotional. So this is my own opinion. Doing it that way, so by moving, basically, normally, not always, but you're quite often moving the kitchen into a really big lounge. And then you've got another. That hasn't always worked for me. On the split level ones, like some of the East London ones are quite often split level. They're lovely, but they're a pain. So they need a complete reconfiguration, and then you've got to work out how you're going to get the soil pipe out somewhere, if that made sense. And that
definitely. No, thank you.
Yeah, so I hope that
definitely.
What I've looked at now, Sonny, was that's a lot of work in. There's an awful lot of work just for one flat. And so now I'm looking at but from the opposite perspective, as I'm looking at finding freehold blocks with many EPCs but 0 leases, and therefore I know it's an unsplit block.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah,
Be interested in that as well.
Yeah.
So just no, that's fantastic, and thank you for sharing tonight, and thank you for being. So on this block of 5, you may think, well, why do you want to split it and not, you know, sort of have it as it is, as a single title? So the value of each individual lease is more than if it was all on one title. And if you come to sell, you may get like this, the value of this as a total, as a minimum, is 750. So I'll be looking for an investor at 750 who wants 5 flats to rent out, because he's not going to live in all of them unless he's got, you know, 5 members of the family that want to live separately. But so you'd be looking for an investor who's going to come in to buy these. But with 5 single titles, if I wanted to sell one off, or 2 or 3, then my market is much more open for somebody wanting a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom flat. So there are major advantages, as well as the value goes up, what you can market at and what you can borrow. So again, I'm refinancing 4 flats for the first time in exactly the same way here. We've done the titles splits, we've done the drawings, we've created leases, and those 4 will give us more money to cover all the debt that's in that company, and the other 5 will remain without debt. So so we didn't have to use all of the security. We only had to use, you know, half of it to actually clear all the debt. So there's lots of advantage to the title splits, and we've created 125-year leases. The cost is about £1,200. We've got to pay the architect £600 roughly. This one was probably a bit more because there's a bit more drawing, and then we've got to pay £600 to the solicitor to do the lease per lease. And I don't know if that's a good price or not price, because they are duplicating, but she's very efficient, so it's okay, and we can get all these done and move forward. But yeah, that's what we've been doing in the background. So I thought we'd just cover title splits either on land or on existing property as an option for raising finance, increasing the value of the property, being able to sell the property, because the land, as I said on the first one, we weren't able to sell it as one big block because the value was 1.8 million. But you know, when we split it down, we got, of course, more buyers coming in looking at those values. So any other questions we got on this, or any other topics before we got a, you know, 5-6 minutes left, or we got more time, but if anybody's got any questions on this or any other topic, we're happy to chat. Whilst you're thinking about any questions that you've got, as I say, I'm happy to answer those, or my friends and colleagues here are as well, if I don't know the information, which I don't claim to know all the information. Dan has put our WhatsApp group information on there, so you can join the free WhatsApp group if you're not already a member. I think Clive and Helen, I added you last week, so welcome to that, and great, and I hope you're getting the messages. And as I said at the beginning of the call, I did say about the Think and Grow Rich book, which Doug had introduced many of us to. I put it in the WhatsApp group this morning so that you can pick it up there. So even if you didn't come there, it's in there. And I do have your email addresses, and when I get 5 minutes, I'll start sending them out on email as well. But there is a link in the WhatsApp group that you can pick up as well. Sinead, was that your hand from previously, or is that a new question? Or
really quick question, actually, while I'm on the line to all my friends in lovely sunny Kent. They were talking about a road from Essex to Kent, weren't they? They were talking about linking up Essex and Kent, and I hadn't heard any more about it, and I didn't know if anybody else had heard anything about it, and what the likelihood of it going ahead is.
Well, on our local roundabout, as you approach Sittingbourne, there's a lot of work going on, and this is a flyover that they're building, and it is just a flyover, like many motorways they're building from Sheerness, which is it used to be a port town, and ships used to come in from Holland and various places into there, and it is a town in itself. And they're building this flyover. Now that flyover, on one of our other projects, there was a condition on the planning which we haven't got yet, but they're still there. That it's called a Grampian condition, where it says that until that development or the road is complete, we cannot occupy our property. So it wasn't anything to do with our property. It was the actual infrastructure around the town. What you're talking about, I believe, and I did hear this at a council meeting, where they were looking to do that road, but they're also talking about using freight, as in ships, to transport stuff and take it off road. So from where Clive and Helen live, you know, there are marinas, etc. And as I say, big ships used to come in from Europe, bringing things and sailors in, and you know, sort of merchandise. And that port has closed down, but they're thinking of reopening that port and various other ports in the country. So where you've got an Amazon depot maybe in Liverpool, that ship would come around on the river rather than going down the motorways, adding to pollution, adding to traffic and things like that. So there is a major plan going on to take traffic off the roads, or as in, I mean, when I say traffic, I mean transportation of goods. And Amazon and people like that are looking into that, as in, as a way. Della, would you like to come in there?
Sorry, Sunil, it wasn't. I have nothing to add to what you were saying. It was a question.
Yeah, no, that's fine, because I know that, you know, you may have had a contact or you may have heard something like that. But yeah, it was I was at a small meeting, and they mentioned this, and they were just trying to take transport lorries and things like that off the roads and put them back onto the sea, and link up various port points around the country. So happy to answer your question, Della, and I think Clive may want to come in on the shipping angle. But
okay, just a quick question, just a direction really, and Shania might be able to help me. Is I'm looking at a house that's freehold and leasehold, not leasehold, and it's only got 33 years left on the lease. So I'm struggling to find somebody to talk to, of who would be able to help me out with valuing what that would be. So
Is that a house or a flat?
It's a house. Weirdly.
In clubhouse, in the clubhouse groups, I mean, you'd really want a leasehold surveyor, because there's calculations for calculating the marriage value, because once a lease becomes less than 80 years, you have to compensate the freeholder for 50% of the uplift on a time value of money calculation. It's a horrible mathematical calculation.
Yeah, I found it all online, but yeah, it's just talking to somebody who knows.
I can give you oh, is that Della's telephone number?
yeah, I've sent it to you privately. I haven't shared it with everybody, Della. I just shared it with Shane. But yeah, I think you're
Della, we'll take it offline. I'll give you a hand. Love to.
Lovely. Thanks, Shania. Thank you, Sunil.
You're welcome. There is Bernie Winter. I'll call him Winters. I think, yeah, his name's Bernie, but he's the lease expert. And when I've listened to him, you could listen to this guy for hours. And if we can get his number, then there you go. Cash is just.
He's retired. I used him until he's retired.
Yeah, does he have anybody taking over, like some assistance or anything? But he's still got stuff out there. But Cash has kindly put his details in, his name in there. Welsh.
Yeah, Bernie Wales.
Wales, sorry.
Yeah,
Thanks, Cash, appreciate it.
Yeah, he retired about a year ago, and him and his friend because the lease, obviously he found more leases is really, it's like a legal job, isn't it? It's really stressful. And
this is great.
Yeah, him and his friend are doing the marketing business now, and they've completely moved away from. I'm so disappointed because I did his course, and I could listen to him all night as well.
Yeah, no, he basically said, you know, he's got a sign above his desk that says, anybody comes in and says, what does the lease say? And I do use that because, you know, the guys in the office say, I've got this and problem. I said, well, what does our tenancy agreement say? Have you read our tenancy agreement? Is there any clauses in there? You know, we have self-repairing leases where a tenant is a commercial tenant and they're meant to repair the property. And they call us up and they say, oh, we got a leak, this, da, da, da. And I say to the guys, I'll point out that it's a self-repairing lease and which clause it is, because that is what you've agreed in the beginning and that's what they're paying for. Amit is also put in the chat box about lease calculators, but it's really great here because, you know, you've asked the question, Della, and, you know, people are jumping in with trying to help you. But if anybody's got any one that they could put Della into contact with, if you reach out to me, I'll give you Della's contact details, and then, you know, maybe you can get it valued correctly. Yeah, it's a specialist. I have a managing agent. We had some properties in Faversham which we still own the freehold of, and we've employed a management agent. So it's different to a letting agent. They're a managing agent. Let me put you in contact with him because they are specialists in that area, and they manage, I think, 2,000 properties. So they would know how to calculate that and to see if it's a good. So I'll find that for you and I'll send that to you in the next day or so.
Okay, lovely. Thanks, Neil.
You're welcome. Appreciate the question as well. Clive, Helen, were you going to come in on the transport one or anything else?
No, all it was they. I think what she might be talking about is there's supposed to be a tunnel going across at Gravesend to Tilbury. That has been talked about for a long time, so I think that might be what they're talking about. It's keeps getting mentioned and put off and everything else.
Yeah, brilliant, Clive. But it's not, as you say, it keeps being mentioned and nothing. It hasn't moved forward, but it's still on the cards because. But I think, as I said, the most recent meeting I went to, they're talking about, you know, going, well, we've got these ports and we've got, you know, we can put ships around there and it will just release the traffic on the motorways and the pollution. And I think it's the pollution angle that's more interesting for them. So, but yeah, hopefully it all comes off.
There's a guy actually, I don't know how serious he'll ever get it, but he's actually talking about building a pier at Queenborough.
Is he? No, that'd be good.
I don't know if that'll come up.
You need to hold on then until the right timing's right.
No, this is actually off of the other side from us. It's not close to us, but it was a pier.
Brilliant.
Queenborough years and years ago. He's on about trying to redevelop that, but
yeah,
I think struggling to find people that would help him move forward with it, sort of thing. You know, it's a big project. So
yeah, okay, fantastic. Thanks, Clive. Appreciate that. Any final questions from anybody that wants to come in, or anybody want to ask questions on anything? You say, you know, it's all good. The questions that have been asked have been really helpful, and it really helps me because, you know, a number of people called it a presentation, and I've just gone through what we do. I didn't have any plans because during the day I'm sort of working, and then come up by 6 we turn the screen on and, you know, go through what we've done, so that it's not actually formatted in any way apart from the couple of slides that we had. So it's really great to get questions from Amit, you know, Cash, Della, and, you know, Clive's input and everything else, because it does help me. And Shanae, thank you for all your help, because it makes it easier rather than me talking to myself. So yeah, anything final from anyone?
Could I just ask if anyone's got an opinion on, so where we've got all this hybrid working,
where we've got what?
The hybrid work, you know, people that have got careers in London, and before COVID they were there flogging away. COVID proved that we could run businesses with technology, and now many roles have become hybrid roles, and so people only have to go into their London office, say once or twice a week. I feel that seaside towns are really going to grow or grow more because of this, because people are realising they can have a better quality of life, and providing they can get into London in about an hour or, you know, an hour and a bit, then they'll commute 1 to 2 days a week. Do you think that is the way things are going? Or are you seeing that through your estate agency, that people are getting rid of flats and getting houses in the suburbs more and having a better quality of life?
Yeah, definitely. And then the reason we can definitely, when I'm saying definitely, is because we can see the addresses of people who are coming to inquire about properties, and we can see they're coming out of London. We can also see that what they're looking for. So if they're, you know, often they're looking for properties with garages. We've had 14 increases in interest rates, but the market in Sittingbourne hasn't dropped because we're 1 hour into London, and I'm always on the internet. And I was looking yesterday, and I looked in Sheerness, which is 9 miles from here. It's a seaside town. It's not, you know, brilliant in terms of the seaside, but you are by the sea, and the prices there, I was astonished how much they'd gone up, because they weren't always that high, and now they've increased quite a lot. And I think it is that effect. And we were thinking that as the interest rate increased, property prices would drop slightly, but the demand from outer London has supported it upwards. So that hasn't been the case. We haven't seen major drop in prices in this particular area. And when you look at Herne Bay, Whitstable, and all of those seaside towns which are very popular, Margate, again, it's much cheaper to live here and still be able to work. If you're like these guys, brokers, you know, everything else, you can do a lot of business from home, and then you can spend that time networking, going to network meetings, but have a much better quality of life out of the city, on various, you know, levels. So yeah, I think there is a definite shift, but move away from the cities. There's a definite shift from employers as well as the team, what they want. So it's not so great if you've got, you know, high-rise blocks of commercial property in London or in the Docklands or somewhere like that. But you know, if you're out, the property prices here, it's supporting that. So we're shielded in some way. I don't know if anybody else in a different area is finding similar things.
I'm seeing reductions in Ashford, but I don't know whether that's just unrealistic initial asking prices, but there's definitely quite a lot of reductions. Yeah.
And it does surprise me, because you can still get into London fairly easily, but yeah, maybe our turn is coming in the next couple of months, that, you know, it's that we will have that drop, but it may happen a lot quicker. But we're still selling properties, which we thought, you know, the world was going to stop, but it's quite strange because the world hasn't stopped. People are still buying properties, and rents have gone up tremendously in this area. And it surprises me how much people are able to pay, and yeah, how much rents have increased. You know, a property came back last week. We've managed to market it at £300 more. But is that property really worth £300 more, or is it a market value? But we've let it. People are coming straight away and said, yeah, there's low stock. I know in our town, yes, I was looking yesterday on Rightmove, and there's only 10 3-bedroom properties ranging from £1,000 to £1,600. But 10 out of a population here of about 25,000 is not a lot of 3-bedroom properties. So it's supply and demand, is meaning that the price is going up. But as an agent, and as well as, you know, a landlord, I'm thinking, how do people afford these properties? Because even on the wages that we pay, or the salaries we pay in our office, our lettings negotiators, one of them can't, because he's just started, his salary is a little bit lower. He wouldn't be able to afford a property from us if it was a 3-bedroom property. And that's, you could say, well, as an employee, you should pay more. But yeah, we've got to make money as well. So, but yeah, any final questions on that? Great question there, Shania. Thank you. Okay, there is in the chat the free WhatsApp group. You can join that. We'll be doing this monthly, and then we've got an in meeting in September, October and November, and then December we're planning a Christmas party. So hopefully we'll get everybody together for a bit of a social. Tomorrow morning 7:30 we're doing Clubhouse, and on Friday. So please join us there. And if you need anything, just reach out to me, and I'll put you in contact with somebody or see if I can help in any way. Again, Dan, thank you for all your help this evening and setting this up. And thank you for everyone for joining us. And we will see you very shortly, very soon. Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks,
for all your
guys. Bye-bye.
questions. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, all. Bye.